What's up guys, Benny here and welcome to 11 huge tips on how to get more kills in Call of Duty Warzone. In this video, I'm going to take you through step by step on things that you can be doing to increase your average kills a game and ultimately be able to win more matches of Warzone and even begin competing in tournaments. And if you find videos like this helpful, please make sure to hit that subscribe button as 72.9% of you watching are not subscribed to the channel, and I promise it'll make you better at Warzone, and also hit the like button whilst you're at it. Now, for those of you who are starting to look at competing in Warzone, you'll want to check out the sponsor of today's video, Z-League, which is the world's first skill-based Warzone tournament platform. Z-League allows you to compete in tournaments for cash prizes no matter your skill level, as you'll be competing against players of a similar ability. Now, Z-League are able to do this by using a custom-built algorithm that takes into account all of your Warzone stats, not just your KD ratio, to then rank teams into skill divisions. This means you'll only ever play against players that are at a similar skill level to you, making it a lot more fun to compete in as teams are fairly balanced. For example, a team with a KD average of 0.83 won the top prize of $1,000 in a recent event. The scoring is done the same as other Warzone tournaments, where you get points for placement and kills, but what's great is that you don't need to upload screenshots as proof, because Z-League tracks your scores in real time on the website. Now, Z-League works on all platforms, console and PC, and there are both free and paid entry tournaments. So if you want to go check it out with your squad, there is a link down in the description below to get competing. So my first tip to get more kills in Warzone is straight off the drop at the start of a match. If you want to get more kills, it's important to identify with your squad areas of the map that are going to be hot drops depending on the trajectory of the plane. You can do this in a couple of ways. First of all, popular map locations like Superstore, Airport, and Boneyard are always going to get a large amount of players regardless, especially if the plane goes over them. However, this is going to be an even bigger case when it's combined with scavenger contracts that players tend to try and grab right at the start of a match. So if you're trying to get the most kills possible, whoever is your squad leader needs to identify where the majority of the other players are going to land. Then don't just go straight for the contract, as that normally becomes a dice roll on who comes out on top, and you can't guarantee getting a lot of kills. However, what you want to do is to land nearby and grab a gun as quickly as possible. And then you'll have a much easier time taking out the players that have rushed the scavenger contract and will only have pistols. Also, when you're flying in, you can always try and position yourself behind someone that is still gliding in with their parachute and just shoot them out of the sky for an easy kill. Now, my next top tip to get more kills in Warzone is fairly obvious, but there are some techniques you can do to speed the process up. You want to be making sure that you get your loadout as quickly as possible, because loadout weapons are far superior to anything that you can find on the floor, and will make sure you win a lot more gunfights than you would without them, especially if you make sure that you've got the best loadouts possible, which I do upload videos about onto the channel. So to get a loadout as fast as possible, there's a couple of things that you can do. First of all, you want to make sure that one of your teammates tries to grab a chopper at the start of a game. You can then loot uncontested areas like the rooftops in certain parts of the map, like downtown, which usually have a lot of cash on them. Next, you want to try and get a scavenger contract completed, which in trios and quads will pretty much make sure that you get a loadout instantly. One little tip with scavengers that I have is don't grab the ones right next to buy stations, as they'll usually pull you away from the buy station, whilst the ones in the middle of nowhere will normally end up closer to a buy station when you complete it. It's a small detail that a lot of players overlook. In most situations, I'll try to avoid long drawn out gunfights until I've got my loadout, as it's just going to stop you getting a large amount of kills during the match, unless you're at somewhere like Superstore, as the time before the first loadout drop is one of the key periods in a game of Warzone to get a lot of kills, as no one has Ghost. Now, once you've got your loadout, to get as many kills as possible, it's all about getting in as many engagements as possible without getting caught out in the open during a transition between map locations, as going to the gulag is going to cost you a lot of time during a match and stop you getting the most kills. One of the best ways to help make sure that you're constantly getting into gunfights and also have an abundance of cash is to start training bounty contracts. This is pretty much what every pro player and team does in tournaments, as it helps ensure that there's minimal downtime between gunfights. However, that doesn't just mean blindly rush at enemy teams. You still want to make sure that you take 30 to 60 seconds before engaging a gunfight to help make sure that you've got an advantageous position, to help make sure that you win that gunfight and don't get sent to the gulag. Do not underestimate how valuable taking that extra time is to getting the most kills in a match. Now, my next tip is thanks to you getting an abundance of cash from the bounty contracts. You also want to make sure that you use that money to constantly keep calling in UAVs. And you've got to remember, before the first loadout drop, UAVs are super valuable, as almost no one grabs Ghost from their first loadout, as they all go for overkill. This then means you'll be able to easily find enemy squads and rack up a lot of kills because everyone is going to be on the radar. So you can then make sure you catch them in a bad position, like when they're running across the open. UAVs are key to getting a lot of kills in Warzone and also making sure that you get positional advantage. And if you're playing with a strong squad that get a lot of UAVs, it also means that you don't need a heartbeat sensor and you can just use stuns instead, as you'll know where enemies are almost all the time. Now, my next big tip to help you get more kills in Warzone is the way that you use vehicles. Now, if you've ever watched a lot of my gameplay, you'll notice whether I'm in a Big Bertha or a chopper, I use them very aggressively, and it helps me get a lot of kills for a few reasons. Firstly, I'm able to engage and find squads a lot easier than if I was just running around on foot. There's also almost no penalty for being in a vehicle, as you can just get out of it instantly and take no damage, whilst your opponent is most likely still staring at the moving vehicle. I do this a lot, especially with Big Berthas. Now, if you can, you want to try and get your squad to all have their own individual Big Berthas. They can take a lot of damage and help you push enemy squads really easily. Just remember, you'll always get out of the left-hand side of the vehicle. If you've got a chopper, however, you want to use that chopper to make sure that you've always got map position on an opponent. So the top of a hill or the top of a building, this will help you win so many more gunfights. I honestly feel that if you don't have a vehicle in the mid-game of Warzone, you're at a significant disadvantage, so go out of your way to get one. Now, my next tip to get more kills in Warzone is the map is your new best friend, because it gives you so much information that most players don't actually take advantage of. Now, the obvious things to look out for are red dots on the map, which are usually caused by gunfire. But remember, even when someone calls in something like an airstrike, they will also appear on the map as a red dot, so you then know exactly where to push, even if they're using a suppressor or have Ghost. Also, another big thing that I'm always keeping an eye on is all the contracts in the nearby area, because if one of them disappears, you know that an enemy squad is going to be right around that location. It's just a small detail that most people don't look out for, but gets me a lot of kills, as you can usually take advantage of the enemy being distracted by the contract that they're trying to complete. And it's not just contracts, also pay attention to vehicles disappearing and reappearing on the map. All this information is going to help you do better and be better at Warzone. Something else to always keep an eye out on is your teammates' positioning as well, as it will help you identify which areas of the map aren't being covered, or if they're going to be able to support you in a gunfight. My next tip to help you get more kills in Warzone is when the circle is closing. You want to do your best to hold the circle's edge. Try and identify using the map which areas players are going to most likely be coming from, and then hold the zone at that point. You'll get easy kills as players are forced to run at you by being pushed by the gas. There will always be late runners at almost every stage of the match, and you really want to try and make sure that you're always in the zone yourself before the claps, which will stop you getting caught out by this and just end up with you having a lot more kills. Which then brings me onto one of the most important tips. During a game of Warzone, you always want to be making sure that you identify and secure power positions that are available. This might be something as simple as the top of a hill or a wall covering a large piece of open ground, but whatever it is, making sure that you have the position early will help you win a lot of gunfights that are going to be forced towards you. This is especially true in the later stages of a match, where you don't have as much room to move around, as squads are forced closer and closer together. As remember, during every transition, you become an easy target. So make sure that you secure those power positions early, and you will end the match with a lot more kills overall. Now, my next tip to help you get more kills in Warzone is to make sure that you speed everything that you do in the game up. Now, this may seem obvious, but if you make a conscious effort to do everything from looting to pushing a builder faster, you'll find that throughout a match, you'll end up in a lot more engagements and also be in a much better position overall throughout the match. Now, this doesn't mean just blindly run around like a crazy person. If you need 30 to 45 more seconds to get the best map position, take it. But the amount of times I see people spending far too long choosing their loadout or dropping ammo and cash, it really does end up costing them, and I'll normally take advantage of enemy players doing this all the time. So just get into the habit of making sure you speed up your decision making in Warzone, and you'll become a much better player, as that's one of the biggest factors that separate good players from great players. Now, one of the biggest tips to get more kills in Warzone is learning how to deal with entire squads by yourself. This is probably the hardest thing to do in the game, but once you get the hang of it, you'll be getting 20 and 30 kill games in no time at all. One of the biggest things that you can do to help you win more team fights is to identify which enemy player is the straggler. You want to do your best to break a squad fight into as many 1v1 gunfights as possible. So something I'll always do is identify the straggler, usually the person at the back of a team, and just focus on downing them first. Then what you want to do once you've downed them is either get the finish if they've got a self-revive, or if they're in the open, leave them to act as bait for one of his teammates to try and get the revive. As if it's a 3v1, if one teammate is trying to revive the player that you've already downed, you've then got another 1v1 situation, as from the squad of 3, one is down, one is reviving, and then you can just focus on the remaining player. Plus, when someone is reviving a teammate, they are one of the easiest kills you'll ever be able to get, as they just can't move. So don't blindly rush an enemy team, make sure you get the first pick, and also always make sure you've left yourself some kind of escape plan so you can disengage and live to fight another day if it all goes south. Then my final tip is for you to make sure that you take 5 minutes to ensure that you've got the best settings and setup possible, everything that you can do to give yourself some kind of in-game advantage. It will make a huge difference. This could range from having the best sensitivity to the best graphic settings to make sure you're getting the highest frames per second possible. Now, I've done a video covering best settings on the channel, so definitely make sure to go check that out if you're not 100% sure. But there we have it, 11 tips on how to get more kills in Warzone. I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know what you think down in the comments below and smash that like button, and I'll see you next time.